An unfaithful woman doesn't bring another body into your bed. She brings different words, and if you don't know how to read them, you end up sharing your life with an actress who already changed the script. Because the most dangerous thing isn't what she hides, it's what she tells you with a victim's tone while already wanting someone else. She doesn't give herself away with big gestures. She gives herself away with sharp phrases. Phrases that sound like wisdom, but are really just alibis. Today I'm going to show you 8 of those phrases. And the last one, the one that sounds like pure love, is the one that hurts the most. I'm Celia, psychologist, woman, and the only one who's going to tell you, unfiltered, what they'll never admit. Stay until the end, because if you recognize even one of these phrases, you already know you're not alone. You're being replaced. Have you ever heard her say, "It's just not the same anymore," and felt something twist in your gut without knowing why? Did she drop that line with an empty stare, like someone tossing a towel on the floor, without realizing she was breaking something much bigger? If that happened to you, you're not overreacting, you're waking up. Because that line, "I don't know what's wrong with me, but it's just not the same," isn't a complaint, it's a confession. And that's where we're starting today. This is the first point in the video. And I haven't forgotten the title. I don't know what's wrong with me, but it's just not the same. That's the phrase that sounds honest, but hides the beginning of the end. Because a woman doesn't stop wanting you overnight. She leaves in stages, first emotionally, then physically, and finally, verbally. But that phrase is the exact crossroads between what she feels and what she's still afraid to say. It's her attempt to pull away from you without carrying the guilt, like she's the victim of some confusion instead of the author of her own withdrawal. The most twisted part is how she says it. Not with anger, not with blame. She says it softly, almost sadly, because she wants you to be the one who turns it into drama, the one who panics, the one who tries to win her back. That way, she gets to stay in the role of the one who doesn't know what's wrong, while you do all the work to revive something she's already let die inside. She says it like it's just a phase, but it's not. It's a sign she's already emotionally open to someone else, a possibility, a glance, a message, an energy that isn't yours. You know what a patient told me years ago? That she would sleep next to her husband, but fantasize about another man. She'd get up in the middle of the night, go to the bathroom, and before going back to bed, she'd check her phone to see if he, the other guy, had messaged her. And still, the next morning, she'd sit across from her husband at breakfast and say, "I don't know what's wrong with me, but it's just not the same." And he, poor guy, would bring her flowers, make her breakfast, suggest a weekend getaway, not realizing that what she needed wasn't connection. She needed a clean excuse to leave without looking dirty. That's why that phrase is so dangerous, because it's not a cry for help, it's a soft announcement of replacement. And if you're not paying attention, you fall into the trap of trying to win her back, when in reality, she's already leaving. She's just doing it with sweet words, so she doesn't look like the one who broke things, so that you're the one who gets tired, who snaps, who doesn't get her. And that way, she walks away free, emotionally and morally. This is where the untrained man breaks, because he starts to doubt himself, thinks he failed, thinks he lost his spark. And it's not always true. Sometimes it's simply that she didn't want to stay, but needed an honorable way out. And that way out is that phrase. Never forget this. When a woman says, "It's not the same anymore," it's because something already changed. And that something almost always has a name, and it's almost never yours. If a woman tells you it's just not the same anymore, and you respond by rushing to fix things without truly understanding what's happening, you sink even deeper. Because the real issue isn't what she's saying, it's what she's hiding, and that hiding doesn't end there. It moves into another phase, one that's even more subtle, more disguised as virtue. That brings us to the second key point in this video. I need to focus on myself for a while. That line sounds mature, sounds spiritual, but in reality, it's a declaration of emotional independence. not a path to healing, a path to freedom. And when a woman seeks freedom while still being with you, it means she's already replaced you in her mind, even if she hasn't done it physically yet. This line is dangerous because it doesn't look like betrayal. It looks like personal growth, like self-discovery. But it's not. It's the permission she gives herself to disconnect without feeling guilty. It's how she opens the door to others, while still closing her eyes when she sees you. The man who doesn't understand this acts like his partner is going through some phase of introspection. He gives her space. He waits. He's patient. He believes she'll come back more whole, wiser, clearer. But she doesn't come back, because that time for herself isn't a journey inward, it's a detour outward. And that outward has a name, a desire, and more often than not, a body. From a stoic point of view, this is a perfect example of how illusion can destroy virtue. Marcus Aurelius said that the wise man doesn't wait on things he can't control. He doesn't cling to uncertainty. He doesn't hand over his peace to a woman who's already unsure. The Stoic doesn't beg for time. He honors it because he knows that every second given to someone who no longer chooses him is a second stolen from himself. And that, my friend, is not love. It's a lack of self-love. When a woman says she needs to focus on herself, she's not asking for silence to meditate. She wants space to feel without guilt, to flirt without limits, to picture her life without you. While you stand as the emotional guard of a story you're no longer the lead in. And she does it without remorse, because she's told herself a noble tale. I'm growing, I'm healing. But growth that excludes, erases, and ignores the other isn't evolution. It's selfishness in disguise. I've seen hundreds of men hold that weight, endure the silence, hold the household together while she finds herself. But in truth, she's not finding herself. She's leaving. Only she's doing it with a nice-sounding narrative, so she doesn't look like the one who walked away. And while you exhaust yourself emotionally, trying to be patient, someone else has already made her smile. Someone else has reignited her desire. Someone else, who didn't wait, who didn't ask for space, simply showed up and made her feel alive again. This is the moment where you need to stop and ask yourself, are you still going to believe that this phrase is a path back to each other? Or will you understand, like the strong man you can be, that someone who needs time for themselves is already living in a present that doesn't include you? Because the one who gives time loses respect. And when a woman stops respecting you, the next thing to die is desire. And after that, there's nothing left, just a role, a habit. A man waiting for a woman who no longer thinks about him, who no longer says his name, who no longer chooses him. That's the real danger of that phrase. Not what it says, what it means, not what it promises, what it allows. And if you don't have the emotional strength to see it, you'll end up being that man who waited with love while she rehearsed her freedom with someone else. After a woman tells you she needs to focus on herself, you'd think distance is coming. But no. What comes next is more confusing, more delicate, more poisonous, because she doesn't pull away, she stays close. She doesn't isolate, she wraps herself around you, and she does it with a phrase that sounds noble, almost compassionate, but is really an emotional bomb disguised as concern. I don't want to hurt you. This is the third point in this video, and it's where everything starts to shift. Because this isn't a warning, it's an alibi. It's not empathy. It's preparation. When a woman says, I don't want to hurt you, what she's really saying is, I'm already doing something that could hurt you, but I don't want to feel guilty when you find out. It's the most common way to dodge emotional responsibility for what's coming. She wants it to seem like she's trying to protect you, when really she's protecting herself, her image, her emotional comfort. She doesn't want to be seen as the one who breaks things. She wants to be seen as the one who hurts because she can't keep going. That's the most subtle kind of manipulation, staying in the victim role to justify the betrayal. The strategy to avoid falling into this trap starts with a simple idea. Don't believe the words. Watch the decisions. Don't let yourself be numbed by soft phrases if her actions are cold. When you hear, I don't want to hurt you, respond from your center, not your wound. Don't say, thanks for being honest. say, calmly but firmly, "If you don't want to hurt me, be honest, but don't pretend to protect me while hiding things from me." That response breaks the game, because when a woman sees that she can't trap you with empty sweetness, she loses emotional power over you. Here's an example that shows this with brutal clarity. A man in one of my sessions told me, "Celia, she kept saying it over and over, that she didn't want to hurt me, that I was a good man, that I didn't deserve pain, and all the while, she was sneaking off with her coworker every time she said she had a team meeting." He believed her words. He even thanked her for her honesty. He didn't realize that phrase wasn't a confession. It was a preemptive manipulation. It was the shield she used to keep betraying him without looking cruel. In practical psychology, this is called emotional pre-justification. It's an unconscious tactic many women use to set the stage before doing something hurtful. And if you're not emotionally trained, you swallow it whole. You think there's still sensitivity, but it's not sensitivity. It's calculation. And if you don't cut it off there, if you don't break that cycle of clean words and dirty actions, you become an accomplice in your own destruction. Before we move on, take a moment. If this video has already made you recognize a phrase, hit like right now and subscribe. I want to know where you're watching this from. And if a woman has ever told you she didn't want to hurt you, drop a comment below. I'm a man and I can take it. There are still 5 more lessons ahead, and the last one is the most dangerous because it wears the mask of love while taking everything from you. If a woman tells you, "I don't want to hurt you," and you believe her, it's because you're still not ready to face the truth behind her words. But things get worse when, right after that, she throws out the next line, "You deserve someone better." And now we've arrived at the 4th point in this video. This is the mistake that destroys thousands of men without them even realizing it. Accepting phrases that sound like praise, when in reality, they're elegant excuses to justify leaving. Because when a woman says you deserve someone better, she's not thinking about you. She's cleaning her conscience. She's prepping her emotional exit. She's saying, in other words, "I don't want to stay, but I don't have the guts to say it clearly." The mistake here is brutal and common. Many men, especially those still holding on to naive hope, interpret that phrase as an act of kindness, as if she still respects them, still admires them, still wants what's best for them. But no, that phrase doesn't come from respect. It comes from weariness, from the desire to leave without being the villain, from the urge to get rid of you, without having to carry the emotional consequences. And if you're not standing strong, you take it as a compliment, as if she's acknowledging a worth she no longer feels. In deep psychology, this is known as covert guilt transfer. She's not setting you free, she's setting herself free from you. And she uses that phrase so you convince yourself that it's for the best. It's an emotional trap disguised as nobility. And if you're not awake, you fall for it. You believe it. You defend her. You justify her. You say she was honest, that she wanted the best for you. And while you're repeating that story, she's already with someone else, already feeling again, already coming back to life, just not with you. The consequences of falling into this trap are devastating, because you don't just lose the woman, you lose your ability to see the harm clearly. You lose your right to righteous anger. You lose the energy you need to rebuild, because you're stuck in the idea that she was good, while you silently fall apart. And the worst part is that phrase, "you deserve someone better," often plants a seed of doubt deep in your self-worth. You start to wonder if you were really enough, if you did something wrong, if you should have changed faster, loved harder, given more. But the problem wasn't you. The problem was that she stopped choosing you, and instead of saying it plainly, she wrapped it in a virtuous-sounding excuse. This is where you need your stoic strength more than ever. Not to endure the pain, but to see the truth without decoration. Because a man who wants to rebuild himself has to stop idealizing the one who already let him go. Has to stop assigning nobility to a woman who only wanted to walk away with clean hands. Because if you keep interpreting that phrase as a sign of affection, you'll stay attached to an image that doesn't exist, to a woman who's no longer there. to a story that's already over. And when you cling to a lie disguised as kindness, you lose the most important thing a man can have: clarity. And without clarity, there's no direction, no desire, no self-respect. Just the constant echo of that phrase, "You deserve someone better," repeating in your mind as you watch her walk away, without ever looking back. We've reached the 5th point of this video, and this is one of the cruelest, because it isn't shouted, it's whispered. It doesn't come as a demand, it slips in quietly. It's when she, after all the previous phrases, lowers her gaze, takes a deep breath, and says, "I'm just confused." And you, still in love, still believing there's something worth saving, believe her, you comfort her, you wait, you justify her. But that phrase isn't a crisis, it's a curtain, a grey area where she can do whatever she wants, without having to answer for it. It's the perfect setup to explore without explaining. And without realizing it, you're accepting a free pass disguised as doubt. When a woman says she's confused, she's not searching for clarity. She's buying time, space, freedom. She's opening an emotional parenthesis where you continue to play your part, while she allows herself to try, feel, fantasize. It's the perfect trap, because instead of setting boundaries, you become more patient, softer, more understanding. And just like that, without noticing, the desire flips. You're the one chasing, you're the one waiting, you're the one making excuses. And she, meanwhile, is already rehearsing life without you, but without fully letting you go. Because in her confusion, you're still useful. The consequences of falling into this trap are devastating. You become dependent on her emotional state. Every time she pulls away, you move closer. Every time she doubts, you double down. Every time she shuts down, you light up. And that creates a toxic rhythm. She decides when to see you, when to speak to you, when to want you, and you just react. You're not leading, you're not deciding, you're just waiting, as if your dignity depended on her clarity, as if your worth as a man hinged on whether she comes back. This isn't something you fix with flowers, or patience, or sweet words. It only changes when you break the cycle. When you realize that confusion is just an excuse. No one stays confused for weeks, for months, for years. When a woman truly wants you, she doesn't hesitate. She goes all in. She reaches out. She ignites the spark. The shift begins when you stop dancing to the rhythm of her indecision, when you break the pattern and say, without fear, "You might be confused, but I'm not, and I don't stay where there's no clarity." That's the mindset that breaks the cycle. You don't need anger. You don't need revenge. You need direction, strength, presence. Because when a woman senses that you no longer orbit around her emotions, she starts to see you differently. She starts to respect you again, not because she changed, but because you changed first, because you're no longer willing to be the man who waits while she wanders. The phrase, "I'm confused," is the emotional shelter of many unfaithful women. It lets them keep you close, without committing. It lets them drift away slowly, without looking cruel. But you weren't born to be someone's pause. You were born to be a decision. And if she can't make you one, then it's your turn to choose. Because if you keep waiting for clarity from someone who's already chosen the dark, you're choosing blindness for yourself. If you keep waiting for clarity from a woman who says she's confused, you'll slowly become a man who forgets himself. But the most twisted part isn't just that. The real damage comes later, when she needs to justify why she no longer desires you, and starts projecting her emptiness onto you. That's when we arrive at the 6th point of this video, and one of the most manipulative phrases an unfaithful woman can use. "I don't like what you're bringing out in me." It sounds introspective, it sounds like a cry for help, but it's pure emotional poison. Because now she's not just pulling away, she's blaming you for the effect her own distance is having on you. Picture this, a woman who once lit up around you now pulls away. She stops reaching out, stops giving, stops even saying your name. You start to feel anxious, more reactive, more on edge. And instead of owning her coldness, she tells you, "I don't like who I'm becoming with you." As if you were the cause of her disinterest, as if your pain from the lack of connection were somehow a threat. She doesn't say it to heal. She says it to deflect, to twist the story, to make you look like the problem while she quietly fades into the background. This is a psychological move I've seen in countless sessions. When a woman starts forming a bond with someone else, even if only in her imagination, she needs a narrative that justifies her emotional exit. And the most effective way to do that is to blame you for her change. It's just that you make me feel this way. You're bringing out the worst in me. It doesn't matter if you've carried her through everything. Doesn't matter if you've taken care of the house, the kids, her emotional storms. None of it counts now. The only thing that matters is that you are suddenly the one affecting her. And if you're emotionally weak, you'll believe it. You'll start correcting yourself, walking on eggshells, overanalyzing every word you say, apologizing for things you didn't do. You'll start shrinking just so you don't bring out the worst in her. And what's the result of that? She loses whatever attraction was left. Because you're no longer fire, you're no longer presence, you're no longer direction. You've become guilt in a man's body. A man reshaping himself to fit the desires of a woman who no longer desires him. This phrase is a sentence. It doesn't just accuse you, it disarms you. Because you don't know how to defend yourself without sounding angry. You don't know how to explain without sounding guilty. And just like that, she gains emotional control of the relationship. She decides when things are okay, when they're not, when she draws close, and when she pulls away. You just follow, just react, just carry the weight of her dissatisfaction. Picture it. You're in a relationship where every move you make is scrutinized, every word you say is received as a threat, and every attempt to reconnect is met with a critique. All while someone else, out there, is making her laugh, lighting her up, making her feel alive again. Because he's not demanding, not questioning, just offering her what you supposedly can't anymore: novelty, energy, play, not because you changed, but because she already decided to change the stage. And if you don't draw the line there, if you don't set an emotional boundary, you'll become that man who keeps getting smaller, just to stop her from blaming you for her emotional cheating. But this isn't about changing yourself so she'll love you again. It's about refusing to carry blame that doesn't belong to you. Because the day a woman tells you she doesn't like what you're bringing out in her, look her in the eyes and say, "What you feel is yours, but I'm not paying the price for your burned-out desire." You weren't born to be the emotional container of a woman who doesn't know what she wants. Or worse, who does know, but doesn't have the courage to admit it. If after everything she's already told you, she's confused, she needs time, you deserve someone better, you're still there, guarding what no longer exists, holding on to a desire that only comes from your side, then what's coming next will hit even harder. Because once she no longer needs excuses, once she feels she has full emotional control over you, she drops the phrase that destroys the most, wrapped in tenderness. "I just want you to be happy, even if it's not with me." And with that, we reach the 7th point of this video, the emotional end for many men, disguised as kindness. That phrase sounds noble, sounds mature, sounds like love without attachment, but it's abandonment with a bow on it. It's giving up, dressed as generosity. It's her way of saying, "I no longer want you, I no longer choose you, but I want to walk away without you hating me." It's an emotional goodbye, without taking responsibility. And if you're not grounded, you'll swallow it like it's some kind of blessing. You'll believe she's thinking of you, that she still cares, but it's not love, it's a license to vanish, to let you go without being seen as the one who walked out, to move on with her life without having to face her own cowardice. This is where you have to stop and look back. Listen closely. Everything you've endured up to now, the silence, the coldness, the vague phrases, the intimate distance, the blame, wasn't for love. It was out of fear. Fear of losing her. Fear of being alone. Fear of not finding someone else. But that fear turned you into something you never thought you'd become. A man who says thank you for being left. A man who accepts a farewell as if it were an act of compassion. And that kills whatever strength, desire, and self-respect you still had left. If you've made it this far, it's because something inside you is still alive. Something inside you knows that this phrase is the symbolic end of a story where you were the only one who loved with clarity. But that's enough. Because if you don't stop now, if you don't rise, if you don't break this cycle of emotional dependence disguised as tenderness, you'll keep being the man who lives grateful for the crumbs of a woman who already left. Transformation doesn't begin when she comes back. It begins when you decide you don't need her to. When you realize that phrase, "I want you to be happy, even if it's not with me," isn't a permission slip to keep waiting. It's a sign to start over, without her shadow, without her emotional manipulation wrapped in sweet words. Change begins when you look in the mirror and say, "Thanks for nothing, because now I start with me." No excuses, no false hope. Because the man who rebuilds himself doesn't beg to be understood. He chooses himself. He respects himself. He becomes impossible to replace. And that, my friend, doesn't come from any woman. You build that. With every boundary, with every silence, with every step you take away from someone who no longer sees you. If a woman has already told you she just wants you to be happy without her, and you're still there, hoping she'll come back, wishing she'll change her mind, imagining that one day she'll realize what she lost, then it's time to wake up. Because what comes next isn't a phrase to close the chapter. It's a phrase that will bury you emotionally if you're not ready. This is the 8th point of this video. I would never do something like that to you. The most dishonest, the most cynical, the most calculated. Because when a woman needs to swear loyalty with words, it's usually because she's already playing with fire, or she's already been burned, and just doesn't want you to find out. That kind of phrase doesn't come from love. It comes from guilt, from the desperate need to protect her image before you discover what, deep down, you already suspect. She says it to lower your guard, to gain your trust, to make you feel guilty for even doubting her. But it always comes at the exact moment when something already feels off, when her gaze isn't the same, when her phone is no longer within reach, when her time isn't spent with you anymore, but you can't prove anything. And that's when she hits you with this perfect little line. I would never do something like that to you. As if betrayal always left visible marks, as if desire for another man always showed up in black and white. It doesn't. The kind of infidelity that hurts the most hides in the things you can't prove, but you feel. The smart move here isn't to investigate, not to check her phone, not to stalk her. The smart and most powerful move is to pay attention to what your body already knows. Your energy senses it. Your gut picks it up. The change in her tone, the glow in her eyes when she's not with you, the unexplained absences, the tension when she talks to you, the long silences where there used to be playfulness. The smart move is not ignoring that intuition just because she throws out a phrase in an angelic voice. The smart move is to draw the line without needing proof. Because a wise man doesn't wait for evidence to walk away from a place where respect is already gone. And for that, you need a mindset that can't be bought. That doesn't come from motivational quotes. It's built, day by day, through small but firm decisions, through the will to stop begging for affection, to stop needing guarantees, to stop waiting for a confession that's never coming. Because if a woman is already with someone else, even just in her mind, the last thing she'll do is tell you the truth. Her guilt needs your trust in order to keep going. And her line, "I would never do something like that to you," is her final defense before she lets go completely. So stop searching for outside signs. Stop demanding proof. Stop asking for explanations. If your soul already knows, act from there. Because the moment you decide you don't need her confession to reclaim your strength, you stop being the deceived and become the man who sees, the man who doesn't fall for pretty words, the man who isn't paralyzed by doubt, the man who sees, understands, and walks away without asking for permission. That's not revenge, that's self-respect. And you don't do it for her, you do it for you. Because a man who respects himself doesn't stay where he's being denied, doesn't cling to someone who's already replaced him, and doesn't believe in words that only show up after the actions have already said it all. If you've made it to the end of this video, you're not looking for comfort, you're looking for clarity, and that sets you apart. Because not everyone has the courage to face truths that sting, that shake you, that strip away your excuses. But you did. And now you know, an unfaithful woman doesn't always lie with her body. Sometimes she lies with soft phrases, with words that sound tender, but hide betrayal. And you can't pretend you didn't see it anymore. Today you heard 8 phrases that aren't innocent mistakes. They're emotional strategies that many women use to walk away without getting their hands dirty. And if you recognize them, if even one of them hit you deep, then you have a clear choice. Keep sleeping or wake up for good. Because the man who keeps waiting for clarity from a woman who's already replaced him isn't being patient. He's being a partner in his own destruction. Drop a comment below with just one phrase, I am wisdom. And tell me where in the world you're watching this from. Because this community has no borders. This is for those of us who choose to see reality without filters. Who won't swallow sweet words when the truth tastes bitter? I'm Celia, psychologist, woman, and founder of this space called House of Wisdom. This channel exists to show you what they won't confess, to give you back your clarity, your power, your direction, not to comfort you, but to shape you. Subscribe now. Be part of this community of men who refuse to be emotionally tamed. Share this video with that friend who's still stuck in empty words and needs to open his eyes before it's too late. And don't leave just yet. This conversation isn't over. Watch the videos that are about to pop up on screen. Pick the one that makes you the most uncomfortable. Because right there is exactly what you need to hear.